how is the scope of this position related to the ability or the requirement or the likelihood of the organization to have to field direct requests from the data subjects themselves? So, if an EU citizen contacts your organization or your client's organization directly and says, I want a full disclosure of what you have of mine, or I want you to erase what you have of mine, there needs to be some infrastructure in place in order to accommodate those requests. Does this greatly expand the role of the data protection officer? Does it really not matter? Is it an ancillary service or department? How do you set that up? We'll start on this side again, because
I'll continue with my same example. If you've done your cleaning job, that should be fairly easy. If you haven't, then it's a nightmare. If somebody asks you to delete their name and you've done your cleaning job, their name should be just on one place, and then you just delete it, and then you show that it's been deleted. You need to be able to document it. That's it. If you haven't done it, and it's the same. They want to know the information you have on them. It should be in the same place, the one place.
But if you're the processor, you may just point them to the controller anyway, right? So I'm just kind of curious how this breaks down. Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So I think when you talk about global companies, there is the local systems, the global systems, the regional systems, and all the stuff that's in the cloud that no one knew about. So there's just data that's moved everywhere, and it's used for so many different purposes when it was originally collected. I think organizations have got a real challenge, because when a subject access request comes in now, people are generally asked to pay a fee. Some organizations waive it, but you get about a 40 to 60% drop off immediately as a result of that request. As we're moving into new worlds, I call them intrigue requests. I'm interested. I now don't have to pay £10 or €10 or whatever it is. So you know what? Click an app on my phone and send it off, because you know what, I can. Or you get a bad customer service and you're irritated. Click, send it off, because you know it's going to cause that organization a little bit of pain. You're then moving into the whole transformational use cases that the GDPR provides. The first is around annual events. So I've got a car, and my car, a little insurance device in it, and however fast I drive or however slow I drive, my insurance premium changes because it's based on telematics data. Now, if I want to change my car insurance next year, which it does because it renews every year, do I really want to go and try and get that data from the organization and figure it out, or figure out in a portal, or go on a portal and type in all my details again and again? Wouldn't it be far easier to go on an app, click a button, have all the information sucked out, click another button, send it off to 15 organizations and get all those quotes back and choose the cheapest one? So the whole use cases around the access and the use I'm going to choose those rights is going to transform. Final one is annual, and these are lifetime events, getting married, moving house, those sorts of things. You can, again, if I can execute that right very easily and efficiently, I'm going to do it. So it's really going to transform the way as individuals we are starting to access the data that companies hold on us. If you don't know your data, if you do not have control over your data as an organization and be able to provide that across the depth and breadth of everything you do, wherever that personal information is, you're going to have a very significant challenge.
I have to say that it hadn't occurred to me until just now that people would be using it vindictively just to punish people. And now I have lots of ideas for my own personal hobbies.
I think you're allowed to ask for payment if it becomes abusive, though.
Yes.
Well, yeah, and I'd like to put a pin in this, because when we talk about the future, I think this is one of the things we're going to have to anticipate if we five of us are going to design the GDPR of the future. But first, to you, subject direct access. What do you think?
Well, I think that all of us work in a community where we're oftentimes requesting or responding to requests for data about individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of odd that we'd be so shocked that people could ask us for their data.
True.
Themselves.
Yeah.
And so it's like the shoe is on the other foot. And I think we all are familiar with things like clawbacks, and how do you gather data, not only to produce it, but to erase it, to redact it, to demonstrate that you no longer hold it. We do that infrequently. We don't do that at scale, I would say, but we're not unfamiliar with that process.
So I'm looking for something to disagree with because I generally think it makes panels more interesting when you have somebody disagreeing. The only thing I can come up with right now is, Mark, I definitely would not want somebody taking my driving habits, and I would definitely not be requesting that to send it to anyone because my insurance premiums would skyrocket. But other than that, I'd say, to everyone's point, if you've done your job, which is a really, really tough job, if you've done your data audit job and your information flow, where it is and where the inflection points are and where it's coming in and who has it, that's a really tough job. And I don't think you're ever totally sure, other than say that I'm sure we didn't get it all. But if you've done that job to a substantial portion, then it shouldn't be difficult to say, yeah, we're going to delete this data because, again, we're used to getting the request for data. With that being said, depending on the size of the organization, to Mark's point earlier, our data protection officer is one of the most senior level people in the company that reports directly to the executive committee. The executive committee of a large public organization, because we're taking it that seriously. Now, our data protection officer is likely not going to get the requests from a candidate in the US or a candidate somewhere in the EU saying, please delete my resume. It's going to go to the people that we have hopefully done a good job of presenting on a country basis. If you're in this country, the country specific websites saying, if you have a request for your data, here is our local data privacy officer or our local controller, here is where you can direct your complaints to and put that out to the market. So it should not be that difficult, where we all know that we're going to come into problems or where we hope for substantial compliance is the person that has printed something out. You know, the person that has a box of resumes alongside of them. We know that we can confirm that everything's been deleted off of our servers, off our mail servers, O365, our MySQL, wherever else we have storage. But it's the person, maybe the recruiter in a local office that said, oh, I need to work this weekend. I'm sending these 20 resumes to my Dropbox account at home so I can do it. I'm putting it on my home computer. And you know, as an organization, you've done everything you possibly can to limit those instances. But if I asked for a show of hands in this room, how many people have professional data on a personal device of theirs, I can guarantee that 90% of the room, if I'm being honest, would raise their hand. I mean, the phone that I have is a personal phone, but I have PowerPoint presentations on there. I have financial data from my organization on there. So most of us probably have on our personal devices some semblance of professional data. And that's where it comes into, we can't guarantee, I can't, none of us can really guarantee that every single data point has been deleted.
Well, it takes you back to the sanctions, right? I mean,
Right.
that's why the sanctions are so harsh, one would argue, is to, I mean, we have number 8, educate your team. You can educate them, but unless they're a little bit scared too,
Right.
the education is not going to go very far.